Oh, for the love of... This is the beginning of my first ever race night, taking place at Fastlane Karting in Stoke. I know, I just can't stay away. The format for this race night was a 5-minute quali followed by two 20-minute races, with points totaled up at the end based on how we did. I somehow managed to qualify P1, took my place on the grid, then made the biggest, most amateur mistake ever by not covering the inside line on the start, letting this guy straight through. World champion in the making. Race 2 didn't go so well either, immediately losing P2 and then just sort of falling apart as the race went on, finishing in P5. But, thanks to the fact that there were only 5 drivers on the grid that night, I stood P3 on the podium overall and took home this cute little trophy. I came P3 in that race night by a 1-point margin. But 2 weeks later, and I'm back for more, and this night was far and away a different story from the race night before. Welcome to Perico Karting, and tonight, no more lazy Sunday backmarkers. I'm up against people who know how to drive and want to win. Now, there's a couple more drivers on the grid this time, and because there aren't enough marshals working tonight, the format has to change slightly for insurance reasons, I think. So, here's how this is going to work. There will be 7 drivers on the grid at one time. There will be 3 races, and each of us will only compete in 2 of them. We pick a random number that allocates us our kart, what races we're competing in, and our grid spots for that race. The grid spot will be reversed on our second race. My number put me in the first and second races, P1 in the first, and back of the grid in the second. But don't you worry, neither race was a cakewalk. I'm going to be fighting every single step of the way. And the lights go green and it's time for the race to start. Now, I've learned my lesson from the last race and I'm going to cover the inside as much as I can, even if I risk a lot of bouncing from the kart from the texture change here. I'm in the lead, so all I need to do is keep my laps clean and this should be a fairly straightforward race. My exits from my corners so far are good, but of course I can't have anything nice, go incredibly deep here, and through comes Luke to take P1 on the very first lap. Some unwanted contact coming out of the last corner because he doesn't really give me as much space as I'd like, but, well, now we have a problem. The race has just begun, and I'm a position down. Losing it on the first corner, creating an even bigger gap for him to get by, and now the chase is on. A couple of laps later, I'm presented with my first real overtaking opportunity. He covers his inside line, I stay on the outside, then go to the inside when he thinks I'm not launching an attack. I try the dive bomb, doesn't quite work, I make some contact and he gets a better corner exit out of me, but this is proof that I can catch up to him and this race isn't over yet. I will be able to get by at some point if all I do is keep my head down, get close to him and make the attack at just the right moment. It's at this point of the race that I figure out that I can gain ground on Luke if I hug the inside line on the first corner, even if I'm risking the elevation change making the kart bounce and slowing me down. This presents me with my second overtaking opportunity, which actually gets me past him for a very brief moment, but because he has the inside line going into the chicane, he's able to squeeze me out cleanly and safely, which means the battle continues for another lap. Now, a couple of laps later, this here is the closest I've been to Luke in this section of the track. I take the last corner as clean as I possibly can, which means that I get a fairly decent runoff coming into the main straight. I turn to do my inside line onto turn 1 a little earlier than he expects, causing a little bit of unwanted contact, but we manage to both recover. We're side by side coming to turn 2. I make the corner, but he does an absolutely flawless switchback, which I really have to congratulate him for and yield the space to, coming into the chicane into turn 3, which means even with that attempt, it's another lap to continue the battle. Now, just to serve as an example to how much ground I can gain by taking the tightest line into this corner possible, that's how much distance I close on Luke, and I feel like I'm confident enough to try another attack. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a mess, and I end up giving him a bit of a boost, and, oh, I've been bumped from behind. I've just been bumped by the guy in P3, who's going to turn out to be an even bigger problem further down the line. But finally, just a few laps later, comes my first opportunity to take P1. I close up on Luke using my inside line, fake to the outside, try and switch to the inside, but he tries to cover his outside at the last second, meaning I accidentally barge into the back of him, creating enough space to get by. Bit of a dirty overtake, but I managed to get past, but he gets a cleaner exit than me out of that corner, but I just managed to squeeze through into turn 4, and that is P1 secured for the time being. Now the pressure's on because I'm back in the lead and I've executed a good overtake, and the pressure's gotten to me again because I go wide into turn 1. We have a little bit of contact, but we're able to just smooth it over. Thumbs up all around. So the battle begins once again. Kind of glad that that's not the overtake that got me into P1. It was kind of hit and miss, to be honest, so giving him the position back in this way kind of heals my soul, if you will. But it's not over, trust me. I'm going to get that P1 back no matter what I do. And as early as this lap, I'm presented with another opportunity. I'm bumper to bumper with him going to the up-ramp. I fake to the outside, then to the inside again, get the inside line, just managed to squeeze by, and that's P1 secured once again. Now all I've got to do is keep it clean, make sure all of my corner exits are good, maybe go a little bit wider on my exit than I normally would, just so I could cover that line, and then I will be able to stay in the lead for as long as possible. A couple of laps later, though, I'm going to have my comfortable lead absolutely snatched away from me. I get a bit of a slow entry into this corner, means he accidentally bumps me out of the way, which I can't really blame him for because I did the same to him a couple of laps. He squeezes me out in a pretty safe manner, but I'm right up his behind again, and he knows that, so he goes to the inside expecting me to fake to the inside at the last second, which was a genius defensive move because it lets the guy in P3 straight through to P2. So I've now lost 2 positions in the space of 1 lap, and I need to fight even harder than I was before. I go into the 4th corner, and I just managed to get side by side with the guy who just took P2 off of me, which means I have the inside line into this corner, and I'm able to take it back nice and clean. The P1 dream is not over though, because I'm now able to stay nice and close to Luke coming out of these last couple of corners, and if I stay close in these corners, it means I can make up some serious ground going into turn 1, because I've figured out the inside line and he doesn't seem to want to take that for some reason. So I go straight for the inside early, make the same accidental contact as the first time I tried that move, but I'm still on the inside, which means if I take this corner tighter, I'll be able to get a faster exit than him, even if he tries the switchback. I'm able to shut him out in the chicane, and P1 is mine once again. All I need to do is keep the driving clean and hold on for dear life, and this race is mine. Now, I just want to point out, I have never led a race for this long. My very first race night, I qualified first and then immediately lost P1 on the very first corner. So my driving here might be sloppier and a bit more careless than usual, but that's because I'm under some immense pressure. I've never been in this situation before. I'm competitive, I'm nervous, and I want nothing more than to win this race. So I do my absolute best with this lap, but it's not my best, and I know that. But a few laps later, I have the mercy of a back marker, which means I'm able to tunnel vision the driver in front of me. Tunnel visioning is where you put all of your focus onto the driver in front of you, which actually helps you take your lines better because your brain is trying so hard to overtake them. We come to the last corner, he knows he's about to be lapped, and he lets me through incredibly quickly. So I just want to say thank you so much to that guy, because I've had races ruined before where a back marker has refused to get out of the way, or the marshals have even refused to wave the blue flags at all. So him getting out of the way has really helped my race. A little bit later, another back marker comes into view, and just having someone in front of me helps a ton with my focus. You see there, I take a nice defensive but pretty clean entry into turn 2. We get to the chicane, and then I take a nice tight entry and exit into turn 3. That's as smooth as it comes. That is how you're supposed to do it. So chasing him into turn 4, as long as I keep him in my view, I'll be able to put all of my focus onto him. But I still do need to get past him, and that could prove to be a problem. I make some incredible ground on him going up to here, and then I chase him up to turn 2 where he decides to go deep to let me past, I think, which means the track is all mine again, which means all my mistakes are mine to own. Fortunately though, I don't seem to make any, as my entry to turn 3 is nice and smooth, and then in I come to turn 4, and looking over there, that's Luke. That's the guy who was in P2, which means someone else is now in P2. Do you remember the guy who got through to P2 after Luke's defensive move a couple of laps earlier? His name is Mitch. He's the guy who's currently in P2 right now. Remember his name because he will be important later. A little later, exiting turn 4, and I see a marshal walking towards where the flags are, and that can only mean one thing. We are approaching, or we are on, the final lap. I enter hyper-focus mode, taking a defensive clean line through turn 2, and all I need to do is stay ahead for just a little bit longer, and my first race win is mine. I get a nice clean entry out of turn 3, take a shot every time I say nice clean entry, and then another nice clean entry, and there's the flag. I've won. I've done it. In this moment, I am ecstatic, and even watching it back, I'm so happy. As I finally come to a stop in the pits, I take a silent moment of jubilation. I can't contain myself. My own happiness is contagious watching this footage back. I take a moment to soak it in, and then I gaze over at the board where I've made a very special personal milestone. Alright, so you're probably wondering why I'm so giddy about winning. It's just a go-kart race, but to me, that represented a massive leap in progress for something that I genuinely, with all of my heart, enjoy doing. Winning that race felt amazing and still feels amazing now, and it means that I've made improvements, and any visual, physical proof of improvement I have, I will take with both hands. What I was celebrating at the very end of that clip, however, was the fact that I had broken finally into the 26s, which is something when I started doing this I thought I would never do. I set a 26.949, which was my fastest time at Fastlane Karting to date. However, just to rub salt into the wounds, the guy in second place got a faster time than me, setting a 26.948. He set the fastest lap time by 1,000th of a second. He's not in race 2, but I am, and that means I need to race my heart out in order to secure a good result, because I'm starting at the very, very back of the grid, and I'm going to need to fight everyone all the way up to the top. So, let's not waste time. Let's get the second race underway.
The second race, advise is down, keep it clean, and watch for the lights.
And the lights go green, and away we go, and the guy in P6 apparently gets a terrible start off the line because I'm able to just shoot straight past him. And look at this absolute cluster in front of me. Fortunately, that's Luke in front of me, which means he's also got to fight as hard as he can to get to the front of the pack. We all go barreling into the second corner. Luke goes around the outside and almost gets squeezed out at the chicane by the guy on the right, who fortunately decides to slow down, otherwise he would have caused a massive accident. But this guy's now on my way, and he is notably slower than me because I've bumped into him here, so I need to get past him as fast as possible before he holds up my entire race. My opportunity is here. I take this corner slightly tighter than he does, trying to find the inside line, but he has the inside line on the chicane, which he unfortunately shuts the door way too tight, way too early, which means I've inadvertently spun him out. I didn't mean to ruin his race like that, but to be fair, he didn't really give me the space I was required, so that's just how it goes, really. I'm sorry. Now that I'm comfortably into P5, I can start chasing P4, which is occupied by this guy here, who is known around the track as Sonic. I just managed to get side by side to him here, but he manages to execute the decent switchback on the inside. But I'm getting closer to them, but unfortunately he's being held up by the guy in front of him, so that leaves some opportunities to lie ahead for me. We all come barreling into turn 4. He's still having his line ruined by the guy in front of him and comes side by side almost coming into the main straight. He gets closed off by the guy in front of him, which was some pretty decent defensive driving, but now it's time for the up ramp again, where I decide to try for the inside this time, and I end up side by side along with him, and we come to the chicane, and he manages to leave me enough space coming into turn 3. I go around the outside of him on turn 3, but I get a better exit, and he leaves me enough space for me to be able to secure the position. Good on you, Sonic. I really appreciate that. That was some class driving from you. Now it's time to chase after this guy, because once I get past this guy in P3, I am guaranteed a podium for the entire night. He gets a pretty messy exit coming out of turn 2, does the Perico special and slams himself into the side of the barriers. And then we almost come side by side coming out of this corner, but because I'm trying to go down the inside of him, he gets a better exit. This corner here, I'm also trying down the inside. We are practically side by side coming down the straight, and that means that I have the inside line, which means I can do an overtake. He doesn't really leave me the space, and that makes me angry somehow, but now I'm guaranteed the podium spot, but I'm not going to stop there. My next target is the guy in front of me. It takes a while for me to catch up, but lap by lap I start inching closer to him because I know I'm guaranteed a podium right now, but if I overtake this guy in front of me, I am guaranteed the P2, and that is all the motivation I need. I get past this guy, I'm on for a P2, maybe even a P1 for the whole evening. At this point, I've all but caught up with him. All I need to do now is make a clean lap so I can get as close to him as I possibly can. The next lap, I'll be able to launch my first attack against the guy. Maybe I could have been close enough to launch it right there, but it would have been a bit too messy for my liking, and it probably would have ended badly. So all I need to do is keep up my current pace, and then the next lap I can try the attack. We come barreling down the ramp into turn 4, and he goes a bit wide, sees me, and the race is on. So we come barreling down the straight, he covers the inside line immediately, maybe he's been watching what I've been doing, or he's figured it out himself, and we are bumper to bumper at this point. I go down the inside, and I manage to get the overtake on the inside, but because he's got the inside on the chicane and he's creeping ahead, I make the conscious decision to back off so that I can try the attack again next lap. We've got time, I don't need to force the overtake and potentially make an error that could take us both out of the race. My opportunity is coming in this lap, however. I hug the inside, as I've done all race, that puts us bumper to bumper going to the up ramp. He goes to the outside to try and preserve his racing line, but I send it straight down the inside, overtake, close him off, and that is P2 secured. Now that I am P2 from P7 in this race, all I need to do is hold steady, and if I finish in this position, I could be on for the win. All I would have to do is hope that the guy who came second in the last race doesn't come first. That would be Mitch, because as you remember, Mitch beat my fastest lap by 1,000th of a second, which would be the most insulting margin to lose this race night. So, this is what I need to do. Hold steady and focus. After many laps of careful defensive driving, I finally encounter my first back marker of the race, which I'm able to tunnel vision. Luke managed to just disappear. He managed to get past this entire crowd and just absolutely disappeared into the distance. With a free track, he was completely unimpeded by anyone else, but the back marker being in front of me does not matter because that is the checkered flag, and I have secured a P2 finish in my second race. Combining that with the P1 finish in the first, all I need to do is hope that Mitch does not come first in his next race, and I have won the evening. Well, I'll be back soon. See if I've won. Well, bad news. I didn't win. About to come down the down ramp wearing the orange helmet, there he is right there, that's Mitch. He's the guy who came P2 in my race, and he's come P1 in this one by a huge margin. That right there is Sonic, who is in P2, at least a second behind him. And because Mitch has set the fastest lap of the night by some margin, it makes him the undisputed winner of tonight's race night, putting Mitch in P1, myself in P2, and Luke in P3. A well-fought, well-raced evening, and honest to God, I enjoyed every single moment of it. It's going to be a race I remember for a while, purely because of just how fun the battles were, and pretty much how monumentous of an achievement it was for me to go from last to second and to actually win a race for the first time. In the background, I'm seen picking up my trophy, which is now positioned on a desk behind me, alongside the third place trophy from my first race night, and honestly, I'm happy to have it there. It looks good there, and I hope to fill that space with more trophies over the next year. Hopefully next year, myself and Ryan Goes Karting, we're going to be able to go across the various team sports around the country and just generally have a good time, make some good content. That's what I'm hoping we can do. I want to round out this video because it's going to be the last one of 2023 by saying thank you to Ryan because, well, he's pretty much been there for me a lot this year, and he's the one who got me into this hobby, and honestly, his content has recently hit a stride as well. His latest video, which I will link in the description, is an absolute banger, and I urge you to watch it after you've finished watching this one, which will be in a few moments. So, thank you very much for all the support on the last video as well. Almost 3,000 views at the time of recording is absolutely insane for a channel that only had around 60 subscribers when I uploaded that video. To everyone who subscribed and watched this video, hello, nice to see you. Hopefully the content I bring you over the next year will meet your standards. And, well, I've got nothing else to say, so I'm just going to round this video out. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.